Oh yeah, oh yeah, we are so back. Man, it's crazy to think that I haven't talked about the Sly Cooper series on the channel in nearly 3 years. I imagine if you're watching this video, you've probably already seen some or all of my long format looks at all 4 of the Sly Cooper games. And if that is the case, I wanted to start by just saying thank you for giving my work so much of your time. Those videos aren't perfect, most infamous probably being when I said in the Sly 2 video that I had no clue why the game was lagging, even though I was streaming it. Yeah, not my proudest moment, but still, those were some of my favorite videos to make, and I'm glad they've done so well and resonated with so many of you. Funny enough though, I wasn't even planning to make a video on the Sly 1 PS2 emulation available on PS4 and PS5, but then I spent some time on Twitter. I saw a lot of fans raising a good point, that if we ever want to see this franchise make a comeback, Sony needs to know there's still interest, and what better way to show our enduring love than repurchasing the original game in droves. So I jumped on board. I figured there were a lot worse ways to spend $10, and for such a small asking price, it just seemed worth it. Truth be told, I haven't played Sly 1 since making the video on it 5 years ago, so getting a chance to revisit it felt worthwhile. It's not my favorite game in the series by a long stretch, but getting a chance to revisit the characters again was nostalgic and enjoyable. So I purchased it, I booted it up, and got to playing, and I wasn't expecting to be as charmed as much as I was. This is an emulation of the original PlayStation 2 game, meaning it's devoid of all the enhanced looks found in the remastered collection. Something about seeing Sly in his original state, as I remember it from over 20 years ago, was just really cool to see. It was like unlocking a core memory. One thing I had totally forgotten was that the original game's camera used inverted controls, which immediately threw me for a loop, and is surely the reason for my poor play early on. I mean, yeah, I'm definitely not rusty after having not played it in 5 years. It was definitely those controls. Anyway, at first I was a little annoyed by the inverse controls, especially since the game didn't offer a way to undo it within the controls menu, but eventually that disappointment gave way to appreciation. This is the game in its original state, as the developers intended, and even if something isn't quite to my liking, it's awesome that it's preserved one-to-one here. Upon wrapping up the tutorial, I just got to work completing the game in its base form, collecting all the treasure keys, locating all those clue bottles, some of which were much peskier to find than I remember, and of course beating up a few iconic bosses along the way. Revisiting these levels was a joy, especially some of my all-time favorites like Boneyard Casino, A Stealthy Approach, Lair of the Beast, and Flaming Temple of Flame. Something about these levels in particular always called out to me. Perhaps it was the aesthetic, the obstacles, the enemies, the dialogue, or a combination of all of these. And even within other levels, there's just tiny moments of joy, like jumping down on this squid guard from above in a cunning disguise, or seeing one of the developers' faces on the giant hot dog in At the Dog Track. All in all, it's just a fun platformer to play through, and I was glad to revisit it here. And the whole journey is enhanced, of course, by spending time with this iconic trio of characters. The banter between Sly, Murray, and Bentley remains so charming even 22 years later.
99% sure you'll be able to ride them all the way to the top of that statue before they explode.
What about that other 1%?
Well, in that case, Sly, you will be blown to bits. But the experience will no doubt be spectacular.
Nice.
They really nailed the idea of brotherhood so well. These guys are always ragging on each other, but when shit really hits the fan, they look after each other even if it means confronting their fears. It's simple dialogue, don't get me wrong, nothing too deep, but it just does a great job of characterization, and it's really enjoyable. This is also true of Sly's encounters with the bosses, particularly that of Mugshot and the Panda King. Mugshot's dialogue is hilarious. I mean, it's just great. It makes me laugh every time. I'll always love Sly's knock your block off comment, along with the boss's pronunciation of the Thievius Raccoonus. I mean, Thingus Rackamagookus? I mean, that's just great. Whoever thought of that, I love it. But then opposing that, you have the ideological discussion between Sly and the Panda King on what it means to be an honorable thief. It paints a picture of how Sly's work isn't just black and white, and how he operates in a middle ground between law and crime. It makes for good character building, and I enjoyed revisiting these encounters. I still think the clockwork section is a bit rushed and anticlimactic, but overall, it was a great time revisiting the game in its base state. Between the levels and the dialogue, it just felt great to be back. Now, I didn't really feel the need to 100% the title for this playthrough, but I did want to go after the Platinum Trophy. This meant doing a few of the Master Thief sprints, 10 to be exact, to unlock a trophy. As I set out to do so, I was pleasantly surprised with one of the additions found in this emulation, the replay mode. Essentially, the game save states your progress every 5 seconds, and you can rewind up to 120 portions of these 5-second intervals. So if you make a mistake and don't want to restart from the last checkpoint, you can just rewind a bit. While this was marginally useful during a casual playthrough, it was really handy when doing the Master Thief sprints. Instead of having to complete a flawless run, mistakes could be corrected instantaneously, which felt nice. As someone who's 100% completed the game multiple times, I didn't really feel the need to prove myself once more, so using the rewind helped me get through enough of these sprints to grab up that trophy. One of the other compelling reasons that I wanted to support this emulated version was the new additions it did offer. I just mentioned the replay mode, but more importantly was a brand new trophy list that included a few new challenges that really piqued my interest. You of course have your normal trophies tied to story and collectible progression, along with the Master Thief Sprints one, but outside of this, every platforming level has its own additional challenge to complete for a trophy. This included some simple ones like completing Descent into Danger without hitting a guard or taking out any alarms, essentially doing a pacifist run, as well as smashing up 7 panes of glass in Back Alley Heist. And it's funny because smashing all those panes of glass is something I did as a kid, just messing around in the game on rainy afternoons, and now it's a trophy, and I thought that was pretty cool. Of course, what really intrigued me were some of the challenges that limited what you could do. This taught me some new speedrun strategies that I, as a casual player, never really knew about. Like, did you know you can shortcut a huge portion of the gunboat graveyard by jumping on top of the crow's nest and then leaping over the debris in the water? Oh, or even better, did you know you can complete a cunning disguise without even using the barrel? That was such a crazy realization to me, and getting the chance to play this familiar game in a new way was just super fun. It was like rediscovering my appreciation for Sly's first outing. And to be honest, I think the inclusion of this new trophy list alone warrants a purchase of this emulated version for any true fan of the series. It gives you a new way to play a game you already love, and that's appreciated. I could really feel my knowledge of the levels and the mechanics being tested as I went after some of these trophies. I had to think outside the box a little bit, and it made getting the platinum oh so sweet. And truly, those moments of discovery were my favorite bits of revisiting the title. Outside of that, I don't have much else to report on this version of Sly 1. I feel like I've already said so much about it in the full analysis, but I realized it was important to me to make this video despite not having a lot more to add. Sly 2 Band of Thieves is still my favorite game of all time, and I'd love to see similar emulations for it and Sly 3, and the only real way to get to that point is by purchasing this title. The franchise played such an important role in forming my early love of gaming, one that's blossomed so far that I spend a lot of time just playing games, writing about them, and making videos to share my thoughts. I mean, I've been making videos for over 8 years now, which is crazy to think about, but a big part of that has been because of my enduring love of gaming sparked early on by franchises like Sly Cooper. And so getting a chance to go back, it's just sweet. But the coolest part of it all is realizing how many people out there are just like me, still finding a lot of enjoyment from revisiting the Sly games. I'm always getting new comments on the Sly videos of people just like you sharing your thoughts on these games, whether it's providing small details that you really appreciate, or adding in your own criticisms of the games, Or hell, even offering brand new story ideas for how Sly 4 could have been dramatically better. Those right there, those are some of my favorite to read. But more than anything, it's just good to know that people still care about this series as much as I do. That was another big reason why I wanted to make this video. It's been almost 3 years since I talked about anything Sly related on the channel, and I guess I just wanted to let you all know that I still love him too, and that I appreciate how much time you spent watching those videos and listening to me ramble on about the series. It does mean the world to me. So all in all, I do think snagging up this emulated version is worth the $10 price tag. And if you have the more luxurious forms of PlayStation Plus, then I recommend giving it a go for free. They've preserved the original game in its truest form, while adding a few new things that enhance the experience without changing things up too much. And if you don't want to use them, you don't have to. But the replay feature and the new trophy list are like the cherry on top of what was already an enjoyable platformer. I hope that by supporting this work that someday we'll see Sly 2 and Sly 3 get the same treatment, and if so, who knows, perhaps a completely new game could be greenlit if there's enough interest out there. And if that's a possibility, well, I wanted to do my part in making it a reality, and at the same time, I wanted to thank you all once again for spending so much time listening to me talk about Sly. Those videos absolutely dominate my channel's views and watch time, but I do make other videos as well, you know. If you're looking for something similar in format to those Sly videos, I've talked in great depth about 3 different Pokemon games, as well as the first Spyro game, so feel free to check them and anything else out here on the channel. As for upcoming videos, I'm going to be looking at Shadow of the Erdtree, as well as Persona 3 Reload here shortly, with tons of other videos in the plans as well. So yeah, that about wraps it up for me. I would love to hear in the comments below what you guys think of this emulation of Sly 1, and what kind of thoughts were stirred up in your mind by revisiting the title. I'm also curious what you think of the replay or rewind feature in this emulation. Do you think it's good, or do you think it's a harmful thing considering how it can really cheese the experience? Overall, I'm happy with it, but I've already done my time with this game, so making it a little bit easier, that was pretty good with me. And finally, I also want to know which of the new trophy challenges was your favorite, and why. For me, well, I'd probably have to go with the one in Gunboat Graveyard. Just discovering that was really cool. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing for more, follow me on Twitter at NopNapNarp, join our Discord, the link is below, and as always guys, have a nice day, and take care.
But he's scared of the bob-toting roosters.